For many years, Thanos was the undisputed best MCU villain. While some had come closer than others to being great villains, there was only ever one Mad Titan. He galvanised every thread leading up to Infinity War and Endgame by testing the Avengers like never before with his Malthusian philosophy. But in that time, it's safe to say another villain has entered this cinematic universe and taken that crown. An ancient evil from many years ago. 2002.
Wake up, little spider.
I've seen the comparison that if Thanos is the MCU's dark side, then Goblin is its Joker. I find that apt because whilst Thanos has a grand plan for the universe and sees himself as the hero on a journey to right a wrong, the Goblin is the embodiment of pure chaos. He is a man that wants to watch the world burn.
But the one thing they love more than a hero is to see a hero fail, fall, die trying.
His motives may seem baseless and one note on the surface, but in fact, the Green Goblin's philosophy is one of the most interesting villain mantras in the entire Marvel pantheon. Much like the Joker, he's also funny.
Norman? Norman's on sabbatical, honey.
I can see the argument that he can't count. He's originally from a different universe entirely. But the Goblin laughs in the face of can't. He loves to prove to everyone around him that he can do whatever he wants with the godly power he holds. So yes, crashing into another universe, he already becomes a contender for the very best just by being there. Then on top of that, any doubt that this Goblin isn't an MCU villain is squashed by how he moulds our universe's Spider-Man, making him the most threatening foe he has ever faced. It could be seen as a weakness that the MCU's strongest antagonist is originally from another continuity. But he isn't the best villain purely because he's so good in another movie. He does more than enough in both of his appearances to pressure the Wallcrawler or Wallcrawlers and leaves his mark on the MCU in a definitive way. Having now fought two Spider-Men and becoming their signature foes, I strongly believe that bringing in a new Green Goblin native to the MCU would be a mistake. Willem Dafoe's Norman Osborn, aka the Green Goblin, hasn't missed a step in over 20 years, and has more than enough tricks up his sleeve to continue tormenting webheads the multiverse over. I much prefer to think of him as less one particular Green Goblin and more of a multiversal goblin. Whether it be Maguire, Holland or Garfeild, this is Spider-Man's ultimate enemy. He is not a Green Goblin, he is the Green Goblin. The original, you might say. There is no one else quite like him, and he is the greatest MCU villain ever. The most obvious difference between Spider-Man and the Green Goblin is that he loves his power. He doesn't think about responsibility, merely the opportunities to oppress, control, and subjugate that come from his advantages. Even though the Goblin is a split personality of the original Norman Osborn, we see enough in the original Spider-Man movie to question how much of it is merely bringing the scientist's ugliest tendencies to the surface.
Me, your greatest creation, bringing you what you've always wanted. Power beyond your wildest dreams, and it's only the beginning.
We see that he is a cold and difficult father, quick to anger and obsessed with his work. Sometimes it feels like splitting himself into two allows him to masquerade as Norman, the innocent, only so that he can justify plunging himself into immoral behaviour.
You killed those people on that balcony.
The Goblin killed. I had nothing to do with it.
Or are the last vestiges of a good man known as Norman Osborn fighting against the darkness within? The ambiguity is partly what makes this character so interesting.
No more darker half. Did you really think that I'd let that happen?
One of the most potent things about the evil of the Goblin is that he is eternal. Even when he is killed, his final words to Peter torment him for many years.
Peter, don't tell Harry.
It destroys his relationship to his best friend. Meanwhile, that same friend is taunted by a mystical goblin who may or may not be a figment of his imagination, or maybe it speaks to a higher form of power the goblin can achieve. Almost as if he is truly still alive, a phantom goblin reaching out beyond the physical world. In the end, Harry is redeemed, but loses his own life in the name of the goblin, and Peter yet again loses against his greatest enemy a long time since his supposed passing.
You're my friend. Best friend.
The Goblin isn't the most powerful villain in the MCU, that's for certain, but you don't need to be a speaking purple Hulk or a celestial being to become utterly terrifying and press the heroes in truly awful ways. His advanced strength and speed positions him as a dark Captain America with tech that could rival a Stark. His powers and abilities have proven to be a huge problem for both the Spider-Man of the 2000s as well as the Spider-Man of contemporary times. Still to this day, this final fight is one of the most brutal comic book finales.
I offered you friendship, and you spat in my face.
The presence of the Goblin ups the ante on Tom Holland's fight scenes in No Way Home. In Homecoming, he doesn't throw a single punch. Compare that to this. No longer is this Spider-Man a boy. The Goblin forces him to use his aggression, to refrain from pulling his punches. He forces him to contend with his own darkness in the hope of stopping him. This is without doubt the most savage we've ever seen Holland's Spider-Man, and the Green Goblin is certainly the villain that has tested him the most, even more so than Thanos or Mysterio at the end of Far From Home.
Strong enough to have it all.
Too weak to take it!
Your weakness, Peter, is morality. It's choking you.
What's interesting about the Goblin in relation to Thanos is that he doesn't think of himself as moral. He doesn't believe he's a chosen one with the only foresight to recognise what needs correcting. He believes that he is a god, and that with that godly power, he can do whatever he wants in a hedonistic manner.
Struggling to have everything you want. Gods don't have to choose.
You know how much I sacrificed?
We take.
In both of his cinematic appearances, he becomes obsessed with Spider-Man purely because their philosophies are incongruent. The Green Goblin takes revenge on the board for wronging Norman Osborn, but from there, all he does is take joy in proving his perspective correct. He seeks to corrupt the webhead, whether it be Maguire or Holland. And if he cannot corrupt them, he is more than happy to battle to the death, going out in a blaze of glory.
Or we could destroy, cause the deaths of countless innocents in selfish battle again and again and again until we're both dead. Is that what you want?
Peter. No good deed goes unpunished.
That's why we get the incredibly badass moment when the Goblin smiles the more Spider-Man wails on him in the condo fight. He wants to see Spidey stoop to his level, to indulge in his power for his own gain. And when that doesn't plunge Spider-Man into darkness enough for the Goblin's liking, he decides to hurt those closest to him.
The heart, Osborn. First, we attack his heart.
Those eyes! Those horrible yellow eyes!
The death of Aunt May in the MCU provides a darkly satisfying conclusion to his attack on Maguire's Aunt May in 2002's Spider-Man. That was a warning shot, meant to draw Spider-Man out. Here the Goblin shows that those whom Spider-Man loves are only left alive if the Goblin allows it. In the first movie, the Goblin asks Spider-Man to join him and engage in a lifestyle that sees them enjoy their power and take whatever they want. In No Way Home, knowing that Peter Parker will never submit, he instead tries to break him so that he will be the one who is fixed. He sees fixing him as allowing him to become so full of rage, so full of malice, that he will finally be just like him, unburdened by morality, responsibility, or needing to care for others. Much like the Joker forcing Batman to take out Harvey Dent, the Green Goblin successfully corrupts Spider-Man. He takes up the glider with full conviction. He will murder the man who was Norman Osborn. If his multiversal doppelganger had not been there to stop him, the Goblin would have won. The same is also true of MJ's fall. Without Garfield's Spider-Man, the Goblin would have successfully killed May, MJ, and goaded Peter into committing murder. He would have all but destroyed this universe's wallcrawler and made it look effortless.
I may have struck the blow, but you are the one that killed her.
Behind the scenes, the Goblin is brought to life perfectly by veteran actor Willem Dafoe.
I like the idea that I was returning to something that was same but different. It's a return to something I did before with that kind of history, but there's a spin on it, and that appealed to me.
He's incredible in everything, and his absolute refusal to phone in this performance when it easily could have been a paycheck nostalgia appearance is what makes the character one of No Way Home's strongest aspects.
Green Goblin has a case to state this time. A philosophy of life. It's not just about some kind of abstract muscle twirling power grab.
The revisions to the character's look are also very welcome in his second story. Upon breaking the Goblin mask to pieces in an effort to destroy the Goblin persona, it freed up the character to take on a more warlike, but also more performance-driven look. I like the mask more than most, but I must admit giving Dafoe the full range of his face in those battles is a vast improvement. His sneers and indulgent grins are nothing short of incredible. His costume now has torn purple covers and a hood, more closely resembling his comic book counterpart, but he also comes with several new tech upgrades and pieces of armour that break up the singular colour of the original suit. It's very satisfying to see the Goblin go up against his formative Spider-Man and the latest Spider-Man in his best look yet. Whilst I do like the idea of the villains stealing tech upgrades, Electro utilising an arc reactor works far better than Norman repurposing Iron Man armour, and I'm glad this didn't happen. Although the dark elf looking concept art could have really worked to get more of a classic Goblin look. So in the future, I know there's anticipation for a new Norman Osborn to face Tom Holland's Peter, but I think it will be better to build upon the already engrossing foundations laid in No Way Home. Now that 3 disparate universes have all merged into one epic Spider-Man story, why not make this Green Goblin Holland's greatest foe as much as Maguire's? At the conclusion of a new trilogy of adventures as Holland goes through his college years, how exciting would it be to see a renewed, more learned Spider-Man take on the might of the Goblin once again? The same can be said of Andrew Garfield's Wallcrawler. His Norman Osborn is canonically dead since the plans to resurrect him never came to pass. Just imagine the interactions that could come about by having these two face off. Dafoe should face Andrew Garfield so that he has faced every live-action Spider-Man and established a relationship with all of them. Whether that be in a sequel solo project for Garfield, or another No Way Home style team-up, or even a bigger Marvel team-up, I think it's essential that this pairing go toe-to-toe. Garfield deserves to face the Multiverse Goblin just as much as Maguire and Holland. In fact, I think there's a nice piece of synergy here with Dane DeHaan's Goblin from The Amazing Spider-Man 2. In No Way Home, Norman briefly laments the loss of his son. In Garfield's universe, Harry Osborn is twisted by the Goblin serum, but very much alive. Floundering and lost, the Multiverse Goblin could arrive to be the father he never got to the son he never had. A different Norman, claiming he would never reject him like his own father, ready to give Harry the validation he feels he deserves. Together, they could be an absolutely destructive pairing, with Harry so eager to please the Goblin and prove he can live up to him. A second chance to avoid being a disappointment in his father's eyes. All he really needs is a costume makeover, because that ASM2 look seriously sucks. Maybe he could fashion a new look on the Raimiverse iteration with a hobgoblin twist. Beyond that, I think the Goblin is more than compelling enough to take a big centre stage crossover role. There's been talk of Kang being a bait and switch villain, with Doctor Doom stepping up after Kang Dynasty to be the main villain of Secret Wars. However, if he doesn't appear in the MCU FF movie, then this could be far too soon. What if instead the Green Goblin, the street level villain who a team like the Avengers might not consider, is concocting a devious scheme from the shadows during the fallout of Kang Dynasty and ends up the unlikely ruler of Battleworld? Certainly an agent of chaos like the Goblin would revel in watching multiverse selves from all over the Marvel pantheon forced to fight each other to the death. It could be the ultimate embodiment of everything the Goblin wants. Chaos on a level unimaginable. Every single hero and villain across the multiverse that has been building ever since his first appearance, compelled to rest on their godlike statuses in order to survive. They would have to tap into their innate power, something the Goblin would enjoy immensely. He tried to fix Spider-Man. What if he was given cosmic reign to fix them all in his own image? The final step of inflicting his ideology upon the Marvel Universe. In a way, the Goblin always wins. Every second that he is inflicting torment and freely causing chaos and destruction, he is fully actualized. He has no end game, no goal that can fail. Even killing him would mean giving in to his own nature.
No. I just want to kill you myself.
Attaboy.
He is nigh impossible to defeat, physically or spiritually. Whilst No Way Home implies Norman was cured, I think his darker half is impossible to destroy. The Green Goblin shows that we are all capable of evil, that it is easier to exercise no responsibility in the face of power, and that the will to do good is a battle against our darkest tendencies. We have surely not seen the last of the Green Goblin, the multiverse trickster, the webhead tormentor, the ultimate Marvel chaos agent. And when he returns, I fear it will be even more explosive and even more deadly than the last two times. A big thank you to my full fat tier patron, Dr. Chike, and Nathan Shaw. If you'd like to donate money to my Patreon, you can find me at patreon.com/fullfatvideos. If you'd like to find me on Instagram, you can find me at full_fat_videos. And if you'd like to find me on Twitter, you can find me at fullfatvideos.